Hello! For once I'm on time making a video for Christmas. So what will I do next Christmas? I don't know, make a Christmas video in November to show you how well prepared I can be. Oh no, but the shops have beat me to that. I don't know. Let's be honest, we watched Christmas movies knowing that all we wanted was to either see Santa and imagine him being real, or imagine us being as badass as Kevin with all his traps. I mean, the attempt to copy him is why Lego is left around to be stepped on. But as you get older, your mind starts to become filled with all sorts of experiences and relationships developed along the way, as well as reading a Mark Manson book and thinking you're suddenly a therapist, even when you like to pretend a Christmas basket is a hat. Then you sit down to watch a beloved Christmas film you watched as a kid and think to yourself, Die Hard is still a Christmas film. Okay, you also say, wow, Kevin's parents, no, scratch that. His whole family deserve coal up their arse for Christmas, and all year round. So on the topic of Christmas films we watch differently as adults, why not start with Home Alone? So when you were a kid, unless you were a child prodigy, you know the basic premise of Kevin getting back at Buzz and having the entire family turn on him. If you were the bully sibling, however, you probably were on Buzz's side and would have wrote YTA on Kevin's subreddit post. But I can guarantee a lot of people out there as kids were antagonized by others when they actually stuck up for themselves, and had nobody even question why Kevin did what he did. Whether it's Uncle Frank mooching off his parents and straight up confessing that he's that damn entitled, his dad because he doesn't even know Kevin exists half the time, but he's too rich to have social services called on him. And in all the midst of that, while Kevin is alone in New York, with nowhere to go and things to have to do in order to survive, his dad blames him for him spending money for room service, even though you were the one that got him lost out there in the first place. And then also angry at the hotel staff for scaring him away. To be fair, Kevin was fairly convincing in the logic of the film. The police's idea of checking on Kevin. Knock knock, he won't answer because he's scared. His parents said not to talk to strangers. Alright, fair enough, I knocked. He's not missing, he's in the furnace burning. But you can already see Kevin being argumentative with others, as a result of always having to justify himself with his family, because they think he's just being a kid. Buzz really isn't that clever. He's got his parents in his pocket because they can't be bothered, like many parents out there, to deal with the bickers of the children. They think, oh, it's just what siblings do. But that can often lead to damaged relationships in the future, not just with the sibling, but with the parents also for not intervening. The one realistic thing about it is that the first movie ends with everybody saying sorry, even though Kevin had nothing to apologize for, twice. And then it happens again in the second movie. I mean, we often make New Year's resolutions and hardly stick to them, don't we? So it would make sense this happening in this film. But they knew not to go down the same road again, so when Kevin gets back at Buzz the second time, the whole cycle repeats. But when Buzz is humiliating Kevin, it's funny to the audience and the family. But this is why we love this film. It's about a kid being much more mature than his adult counterparts. And instead of it being a child empowerment story, it's more of a child learning how to survive in a grown-up world, like Bear Grylls without drinking the piss. So to this day, it's still a well-beloved film and possibly within my top 3 favorite Christmas films. Elf is one of those movies where you say it's just a kid's movie, who cares if there's a lack of logic applied to it. Like, you ask questions about it and people say, who cares, it's just a movie. But that's what this video is made for, it's overanalyzing. But when you watch Elf as an adult, you're like, how can that happen? How did that go from there to there? To start with, Buddy being able to get out of the crib when he's a few months old and get straight into Santa's sack. Either they need to build better and safer cribs, or they need to test his blood for Kryptonian cells. But instead of actually giving him back to the orphanage, to be raised in the place he actually belongs, they keep him. So someone from that orphanage is going to get sacked, although they have no family to sue them. I can't tell whether that was a joke or not. Then there's the case of how he's still that slim after ingesting all that sugar, but then when he goes back to New York to find his real dad, the elves leave him completely unequipped. Because Santa clearly knows why people are on the naughty list, so he's studied humans pretty frequently, so there should be some knowledge on them. So Santa, if Elf gets hit by a car, whoops, that blood is on your hands. No money, no job yet, he just managed to get one out of thin air, just by saying, I work here. Be right back, and I walk into the Goldman Sachs executive board meeting. Hopefully I can buy a quieter chair then. But one of the big premises of the film is explaining how Buddy's real dad is on the naughty list. And we go to analyze that, and when we were a kid, we'd understand that basically his dad works and works and works, and so doesn't care about anything else. Evidently, in his work, he's facing a lot of pressure, because everybody above him wants results. So this costs him spending time with his family. But then you see this grown man calling himself an elf pop in, especially dressed the way he is, and that's going to throw anybody off. And understandably, he wants to see if this guy is actually his son. Otherwise, what's the point in helping him himself? And I feel like a complete dick right now. But you know, you can send him towards the help he needs, rather than if he's your son, you have that commitment to help him out. But when you're a kid, you probably wouldn't know how long a DNA test actually takes. It's not just go sample this in a room and then come back and tell him exactly what it is. That's not how it was on Maury or Jeremy Kyle. In Jeremy Kyle, it was more rile the contestants up before they get their DNA tests, so you can have a nice fight on stage. I get that Buddy is able to throw snowballs at an army general, how else are you going to fend off the South Pole? But some of the other superhuman things he does, he's just an ordinary human who's dressed up like an elf. Drinking coke at that rate, he's going to get sick. But the overall difference in watching it as an adult is where the mental health comes into play. To any normal person, Buddy is going to look like the kind of person who is psychotic, delusional, among many other things. Because he claims he's an elf, his whole life is based around it, and he has no job history, no social security, so you can understand how skeptical people are. Although as an adult, I still don't get why the Rangers are on a naughty list. When I googled that, someone thinks that Santa is referring to ACAB. And it was posted on my birthday as well, come on! I don't know if it's because Zooey Deschanel's character is supposed to be special, but I would have thought anybody who saw Buddy at a glance would have just thought this guy is too insane to date. Considering there's a lot of inconsistencies with romance in films, this is one of the big ones for me. Also, I think there should be an Elf 2, where the Rangers come back and actually manage to kidnap Santa, so Buddy has to get Santa back. Make it! Then we have the Santa Claus. Makes a lot more sense now that we've survived the pandemic. Scott, as a result of being the new Santa Claus, is now rapidly turning into him, so that when it comes to delivering the presents, he looks smashing. As somebody's uncle. It becomes a complete surprise and a loss of hope for Scott, as he wants to know what's happening to his body that's making him change. But when he gets to the doctors, his pulse is fine. So what exactly can a doctor do? People are going to notice. They're going to think that Scott is not being healthy, but that maybe he's got some sort of mental thing going on. Stuff like his boss calling him the Pillsbury Doughboy is a trip straight to HR. And thus his own family starts to question how much of a good role model he's going to be to his son. So while you think of the good things about Santa, you also think how taxing it actually is for Scott. It makes Santa look like it's not even worth having a job over. And the police are heavily regarded as villains, but I can't blame them for actually wanting to arrest what they perceive to be a criminal. All the police think is, yeah, this guy's just claiming to be Santa. But then you have Neil, who, because you're rooting for Scott as a kid, you think he's just a general villain. But when you look at the ins and outs of what he does, like straight off the bat, telling Charlie that there's no Santa. Thing is, kids can learn about Santa not existing at a suitable age. But when they're that young, it's nice to have something magical to believe in, to make it all the more special for them. They love that. And then as you get older, you start seeing other benefits of Christmas, like getting gift cards. So when it comes to him trying to push Charlie and Laura away from Scott, on one hand, it does look like Scott has lost the plot, because nobody truly understands what's going on, but at the same time, he found his opportunity, because that was what he wanted from the get-go, even when Scott wasn't Santa. And the biggest thing of the film, which is something we have to tell our kids, full throttle, so they don't wind up in a trap, is the park bench scene. This big, bearded man having kids that he doesn't know sit on his lap with them telling him what they want for Christmas. From a glance, you cannot hear an utter word of what they're saying. All you can see is just kids lining up to sit on this white bearded man's lap. You understand it more as an adult. And I'm not one of those people to go like, oh, it's disgusting, it's referencing dark things. No, it's something thrown in with the rest of it, but my God, you can see why his ex-wife is upset in a way. Not his fault, but in that it's a film about a guy having to take on responsibility that he doesn't want to take over, but it's almost like his birthright, and how he can truly embrace it in the end. I mean, for that, he has to get people to believe him. Otherwise, he just looks like a crazy person who just walked out on his family. But the fourth film on my list is an interesting one, Jingle All The Way. Sinbad with all his murder, suggested act of terrorism, he's away for a very long time. Kids don't exactly realize that because they don't understand laws as much as adults do. I mean, they understand don't shoplift, except when I walk out of a store with a lollipop forgetting that it's even in my hand. At that point, do I sell it on eBay or do I eat it? But really, watching this film again as an adult, besides from Sinbad, goes to show how hectic that time of year is. And when you live in that yourself, when you've got kids, or you've got just anybody who you want to buy for, it just feels all the more real. Trying to find somewhere to park, trying to find shops that actually sell what you want, seeing all the videos of fights on Black Friday, and then that materialistic expectation of parents. Honestly, I'm happy with all the gifts I've had the last few Christmases, but I've asked countless times for a tattoo voucher. That's not really a Christmas present, is it? I don't care, it's my present! Sorry, humble. Humble. Also, as an adult, you realize who Phil Hartman is, and you appreciate him being in it even more. And I love how purposely outlandish they make Turbo Man. It's almost like how adults see kids' programs to be. Like, I never watched Power Rangers when I was younger. I know, shocker. Which is why when I watch it now, it just looks so ridiculous to me. But then the last film I think we should talk about is The Grinch. This one definitely shows multiple sides to the Grinch. Yeah, he got bullied in school, he got humiliated during Christmas, and therefore he hates Christmas and wants to steal it away. First of all, he terrorized the town that badly that he pretty much isolated themselves from him, so any time that they're told he's near, they shudder. Then there's the countless memes of how relatable the Grinch is to being an adult. Honestly, the Grinch is Instagram incarnate. But on the more serious side of that, it's more about how the Grinch actually feels. Because the Grinch always had one person that truly believed in him. Someone that truly liked him for who he was. And he let how others treat him shield what really mattered. Every time he wanted to terrorize someone on Christmas, it was a cry for help. Because his trauma is buried so deep within him, the one excuse he can use to mask it is that he hates Christmas. The real thing he's wondering is, why does no one like me? And if no one likes me, what's the point? He wanted to shield away his vulnerability and truth towards actually caring about people. He didn't want to say he hated people because he wanted to be loved. After all, that's all people who hate really want. They just put their walls up because of the trauma that affected them before. You want to find love and companionship again, but you're afraid of being hurt. So it was a very relatable metaphor for hiding away. So when one little girl shows more curiosity in him than anyone ever has, he can't really do anything to hurt her. Because after all, he's terrorizing people with the expectation that they're going to be hateful back towards him. He thinks maybe there is more good than even he hasn't seen. And the thing is, when he does that good deed at the end of the film, and people are still shocked, the one person that had that belief in him when he was younger now has more power to welcome him back with open arms and allow the city to do the same. The whole reason he wanted to steal Christmas was because, in his mind, he's thinking, why do I have to be miserable, and others who are mean to me get to be happy? I tried to be like everybody else, but that didn't work, so what else can I do? Well, how about I make people feel the same as I do and see how they feel? But ultimately, that's not a way people relate. It just creates more division. So that's everything for this video. Hope everybody has a wonderful Christmas, even though I just talked very negatively about films. Smile. Yeah, apologies there hasn't been much action on this channel. After learning about being a father, there's been moving house, Virgin Media delaying internet for 2 months, bills to set up, and just many other things. So it's been a struggle, and I've been currently working on an EP with the band that I've been a part of for over a year now, under a year. That's what happens when you do improv. So link to them also in the description, as well as other links that I have. So go ahead and find my socials. I've now nicknamed everything Utopia to label it under one roof. KB is still a thing, Kieran Benji still a thing, that's me, but I need an office. So on the Utopia Lounge, this is the hub, I'm currently streaming on that channel 3 times a week, so if you're bored of this content and you want to watch me say absolutely nothing for 3 hours while I play Pokemon, then go ahead over there. That's not what really happens. But again, have a good Christmas, and I will see you when I see you. Lights out.